Let's go!
Welcome back to Pace Pals, everyone. We have a very, very special guest on our episode for this week. Competitor in pace. He is currently 21st place on the leaderboard with a PB of 139.26. Currently sitting in 8th in the overall standings for the qualifiers. We'll talk about that more. It is BlueBob. BlueBob, how you doing?
Doing well. Can't complain. I am currently recovering from a bit of pretzel that went down the wrong tube.
Oh no.
So if my voice is a bit spotty, I apologize, but hopefully I'll recover throughout the podcast.
Was it a hard pretzel, soft pretzel? I feel like that makes a big difference.
It was hard and there was a lot of salt. So I'm thinking maybe
God.
just a grain of salt just kind of got inhaled, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
You live to tell the tale though. So
Yeah,
that's the important
I made
part.
it through. We're over the hill at this point. So.
BlueBob 1, pretzel 0. Love to see that. Before we get any deeper, I do want to shout out your socials, BlueBob. You can find them on Twitch at twitch.tv/BlueBob, at BlueBob SRL for Twitter, and then at BlueBob's Cinema on YouTube. BlueBob, how do you feel about your performance this past weekend? What are your big takeaways?
Yeah, this past weekend I'm not in as good of a spot as I was going into the weekend. I don't think I played quite as well as I'd want to, but still good enough that I am in the running. There's still a chance. I'm currently the first one out of the top 7 there, so I'm gonna need a big third one. But if I don't make it, I mean, there's 7 fantastic runners ahead of me who deserve to be there. So, yeah, it was a rough weekend overall. The first day, I just forgot how to do triple jump owlless. It seems I was learning double jump owlless just before the weekend started, and I got to the point where I couldn't really do double jump owlless, and I couldn't do triple jump owlless either. Just kind of that awkward little phase in between.
Classic.
And then the second day, I was like, okay, things are going well. I got my first run to SSL, died. I was like, okay, whatever. Second run SSL, died. Then I reset to Womps for a while, and then finally got out of Womps, and my computer just shut off randomly on its own. So then the mental game started, and then I reset to SSL like 5 more times in a row before getting a run. But
I didn't know that about the computer.
Yeah, I was like focusing really hard on trying to keep the mindset positive, and then that just derailed me for a bit. But luckily I was just in JRV. At least it wasn't carpetless or something.
Oh goodness.
Would have been a disaster. That would have been like maybe impossible to come back from, I feel like.
Yeah, that would have been shut the N64 off for the weekend and see what happens in the third one. Yeah. But,
I mean,
overall it wasn't bad. Could have been better at the same time though.
I think it is tough. Obviously, you'd rather be in the top 7 than outside. Granted, you're just outside. You're like you said, you're in that first spot out. So it's not like you are within striking distance. There's nothing, that says you can't be in the top 7 when things are all said and done. I think it's tough. It's just interesting because you ended your tourney PB. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was a 140.32 this weekend, I think.
I think so. Yeah, that sounds about right.
And last time, I think you had a 140.15 or somewhere around there in the January qualifier. So, I mean, really not super different. And especially when you kind of drill down a little deeper as far as what happened. You missed carpetless on this tourney PB, right?
Yeah, missed carpetless. I also saved and quit in BBH.
Those right there,
a chunk of time as well.
Huge time losses. And I mean, it's funny, it colors your whole perspective on how the weekend went, but those two things go a little differently and we're singing a different tune. It's crazy that 2 really small things like that really do change a lot.
Yeah. There's 2 ways to look at it. Like, yeah, I played really well apart from those 2 things. I was actually still PB pace into carpetless with that save and quit. But at the same time, the best run I could put together in a weekend had second try carpetless and a save and quit. That's kind of the glass half empty approach. So I try to focus more on the glass half full one of, apart from that, I think I played really well that run. But, I think every run is bound to have some, mistakes here and there. So
Yeah, I mean, even the tourney PB that we're talking about here, I think it was late Sunday that you got that run. Um, it was still good enough to take 7th at the time. Like
At the time, yeah.
it was a super hype moment seeing BlueBob clutch out the 7th place time.
Mhm.
So it's definitely got to feel like a little bit better, at least knowing that, you know, even a run that maybe you're not like incredibly happy with can still be, you know, it can put you in that position for sure.
Yeah, for sure. It shows that in the third weekend, if I can just clean those things up a little bit, there's a chance that I could put a run together that'll get me farther up.
Mm,
There's still hope, at least.
definitely.
I do want to talk more about the third weekend, your approach and everything. But before we get there, I think I saw you say something in a chat after your tourney PB this weekend. That was your first time missing carpetless on PB pace?
Yes. Yeah,
Wow.
I had a good run.
What?
I think it was like my first 4 or 5 PB pace runs to carpetless every time I hit it first try. I
That's
lost
crazy.
a couple to bits, but yeah, I definitely had a lucky run, and I guess that was just the time for it to come to an end.
So what is your overall consistency with carpetless? Like, is that an anomaly, or like, are you just that solid at carpetless?
I think that was anomalous. Like, I mean, especially because I rarely do it under pressure. Like, usually it's just like, warming up, I'll do carpetless a handful of times, and then like, up RTAs and zippy RTAs, of course, I'll do it. But um, I guess that's just one clutch gene that I seem to have, at least so far. I mean, the sample size is small, but can change at any moment. But no, like when I'm warming up, I mean, some days I hit it like maybe 80% of the time, and other days it's like 10. Like it just varies, but so far I guess I've just been really fortunate hitting it at the right times.
I love that. I mean, that's awesome. I guess, does your confidence grow each time you get there? You know, you hit it the first time on PB pace, great. You hit it the second time, and then is it like, oh, like, I don't know, I'm pretty good with it, or is it always just, it's such a hard trick that it's always going to kind of linger over you?
It's gonna linger. Like I think the thing with me too, since I had that run going of my first, I think it was four PB pace runs that I hit it on. I was like, okay, like the streak's gonna end at some point. Is this gonna be the one? And like, I think now that that's over, we'll see how I handle it in future runs. Maybe I'm just gonna miss it every time now. But
No way.
I think mentally, like I have a solid amount of confidence most of the time. But if I get a streak of missing it a bunch of times, that can change in a heartbeat.
So, we're talking a little bit about, I guess, kind of mentality. I think it's a good segue. Like, just doing your regular PB attempts and competing in an LTA style event. What kind of changes for you, if anything? Like, is there added pressure? Are the nerves different? Like, how does that affect you?
That's a good question. I think in the early portions of the run, it is definitely different because, in a PB pace or in PB attempts, like, early things like, basement, for example, you just reset. It's no big deal. I think when there's that time constraint of like having a weekend to get a run together, I think every basement that you get to is more important. And I kind of get a little bit more nervous. Like generally I'm not nervous going into SSL or HMC. But this weekend I was pretty much like every time, unless the run was just really bad and I was continuing. I think once you get later in the run, it's not really much different because you're nervous if you're doing PB attempts and you're late in the run. And it's kind of the same feeling, even if it's not necessarily PB pace, but just, like the chance to put a run together for the event. So yeah, I think in short, the time constraints does add some pressure. It can kind of mess with nerves a little bit, and I think sometimes too, I get a little more antsy to try and get a run going. Where like if I have a rough day of PB attempts, it's like okay, it is what it is. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But when you only have a weekend, it's like there's either tomorrow or it's today that you have to get it done. So I think I was definitely a little more antsy over the weekend.
I saw a tweet. This is, we're talking about the LTA style. I saw a tweet recently. Somebody tweeted out their opinions. They were anti-LTA style format for tournaments. And I think it's an interesting comparison with LTA style versus like the one, the head-to-head races. Just because it's topical, it's on my mind. I saw it. I'm curious, what is your stance? And Zeus, I'm curious on your opinion on this too, especially as a tournament organizer. What what do you see as the pros and cons of each? What is your preferred style of tournament, if you have one?
Yeah. Well, I've definitely participated in, a good handful of both at this point, and I think with an LTA, if it's not going well for you, it's a lot worse. Like you're suffering for a whole weekend. But with regular tournaments, your entire tournament could be riding on 1 to 3 runs, depending on the format of the tournament. So really, like anyone, even on a good day, can have a bad run, and I think it can be really difficult to, I guess, keep it together if you make big mistakes early in a run and you're just trying to like either recoup the run, catch up to the person, or just keep your head in the game. Where with an LTA, at least you do have the opportunity to reset. So I think it's tough to say that like I prefer one over the other. But I think that generally, like with an LTA, you'll probably get a better representation of how well you've played or your skill level. I think the results will be a little bit closer in that regard.
I think that's right. Zeus, what do you think?
I kind of agree with what BlueBob is saying. Honestly, like the stress of having your entire run in a tourney kind of come down to one run can be a lot to deal with. Just from like a runner perspective, as an organizer perspective, I think 1v1 tourneys are definitely easier on like scheduling and things like that. Because trying to organize like 4+ people to all be in the same place at the same time is pretty tough. And I think just in terms of pure like action during a broadcast, I think 1v1 races can provide more, just because I feel like there's more hype around, people losing leads, taking leads back, and things like that. Like mistakes feel like they have more weight from just like an entertainment perspective, but
I agree.
yeah, so there's definitely ups and downs to both formats. It's not a perfect science either way for either organizers or runners, but it does kind of come down to preference a little bit for sure.
I completely agree with that, and I think as far as what we need, I think a balance is kind of the answer. You don't want tournaments of just one style going forward. I think both have their place, because they do kind of bring different things to the field, not just for the runners, but even for the viewers. I mean, to your point, Zia, like the one-on-one, the head-to-head is like so exciting. Especially if you have any basis in sports first, like. I grew up watching sports and stuff. That's going to mirror, sport competition a little more closely. And then you can get the series. You have like the best of 5 races. I mean, it's super fun to watch those and kind of the back and forth and the development throughout the course of multiple races. But then, I mean, I do think there's a viewer aspect to the LTAs too, especially once you get outside of the beginning for a 120, the beginning hour and a half. Most people start with no resets. So once you get, into like an hour and a half into the LTA, all of a sudden you have the first person in Tippy. As soon as they finish, you have the next person. And so you can kind of just like watch the ends of runs, which you don't always get to do if you're watching PB attempts. So it's kind of nice to be able to just like get like a high dose of just straight Tippy, which is like, it can be fun as a viewer too.
For sure.
I do want to talk about too your approach going into the third qualifier. Knowing your position, how are you feeling? What do you feel like you need to do to get the job done? Do you have a goal time in mind that you think should qualify you? Is there any difference in how you're going to practice it? Anything you're going to lab particularly hard over the course of the next 4 weeks?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I'm still trying to kind of figure that out for myself, to be honest. Like the way this has worked for me, like the first LTA, I was rusty still. Like I was just coming back, so I had no expectations, and I think that kind of helped me. Like I got a PB in the first one. I was really not expecting to get top 7. I was thinking like if I get a 141, like I'll be happy. and I ended up doing well. And I think that kind of like I tried my best to come into the second one with no expectations as well, but I think I still did like subconsciously place some on myself, and that may have hurt me a little bit. So I think that really trying to figure out how I want to tackle this third one, I think I'm going to be going into it a little bit more aggressively now, knowing that I think I'm like 3 points behind seventh.
Yep.
Which means like I'm going to have to get a pretty solid placing if I'm going to have a chance. Like I'm going to need top 5 probably. And that assumes that the people in seventh right now get like, 7th or 8th or something. So I think I'm just going to try to get like a really solid run together. Doesn't have to be like amazing, but I think that something that I can be happy with would be, a low 140, maybe a 139. And if I can do that, then I'll be happy regardless of where I place. And if I don't do that, I think, like I said, there's 7 great runners ahead of me, and if I'm number 8, then that just means that they deserve it more than I did. So, I'll be happy either way, and it's just fun to participate. But to your question about what I'm labbing, like what my practice strategies are going to be, that's one that I'm not sure I handled correctly going into the second one. Like, going to the second one, I spent about 3 days beforehand just doing upstairs, which did kind of pay off. Like the 2 runs I got upstairs, both were pretty solid, except for, of course, the second try carpetless and the 1 run. But I hardly got upstairs because I guess I had only practiced it. I think I kind of got a little rusty at everything else. So I think my approach is going to be focused a little bit more on kind of the middle game and just making sure that I get runs upstairs. And then hopefully just kind of keep upstairs fresh enough that I don't completely lose every run at that point. So yeah, we'll see. Probably focus mostly on basement and pre-up, which is from vanish cap to the upstairs door.
So we're talking a little bit about just like placements in general. Has there kind of been anyone in particular, either who is qualifying right now, who is in those top 7 positions, or even outside of the top 7? Is there anyone so far who you've kind of looked at, if you've been able to catch anyone else's runs that's kind of like stood out to you so far, maybe like impressed you, like, oh damn, they're kind of popping off right now, like, is there anyone that kind of stands out?
So admittedly, I tried my best not to pay too much attention to the other runs. I find if I'm comparing myself to others too much, that generally just kind of hinders my mindset. But of course, I looked at the standings after the fact and saw how runners were doing. I wouldn't say any runners that are in the top 7 surprised me. They're all runners who have shown that they're capable of being there. I think like Beast, for example, I think he dropped times that were comparable to this in the previous one. I think it was summer pace. Gothic, at any point can drop a 138. He's done very well and gotten low 140s each time. And then the rest of the top 7 are people that you 100% expect will be there, as they have been in previous ones. D whatever and Kano, once again, same thing. Like I know they're both kind of around me in the standings. D had a good showing this time. I think the first one he didn't, really meet the expectations that he would set. But D's one of those ones. Once again, he has some of the best movement in the game, and that can carry someone through a 120 run as long as carpetless and everything else cooperates. So I think he put a pretty solid run together this time, and honestly, like I think he could drop a 138 pretty easily in the third one if he really tried. But I know he's kind of focusing on like nonstop and 70 star at the moment. But and then Kano, of course, extremely good at the game, and same thing. He doesn't have to play very much. He can just come back and drop a time like that. So I don't know if Discord picked up that snap, but I snapped my fingers. That's how he does it. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all of the standings that I saw. And if I'm missing anyone, once again, I don't think there was anyone who surprised me with how well they've been playing.
I mean, I think you hit on all the points that we kind of touched on when we did our recap last week, 2 days ago. But yeah, to your point, Denner really impressed me this time around, given that he was focused on nonstop 120, and I think he was at ESA competing against Beeve and that, and that that he was able to still come back off of. I don't know. I would assume he was not super thrilled with his first qualifier performance just because of what he's capable of. And I just don't think he was able to get a run that is up to his abilities. But to see him come back from that while still focusing on another live event that he's doing is awesome, and I love that for Dinner. And then yeah, Kano's right there. I think we describe Kano's chance of qualifying at this point as an outside chance. I think he needs a bit of help just because he's got 9 points, you have 16, and then 7th place is 19. So it'd be tough to make up 10 points at this point. But who knows? It'll be interesting, to see what happens. On that, or I guess to that point though, Zeus and I figured that the top 4 have all but qualified. Ouija first place in each of the first 2 qualifiers. I think as long as I don't even know if he needs to submit a run for the 3rd qualifiers, but assuming he does, it's almost a guarantee. And the other 3 up there, Cheese, Punke, and Callie as well, are in really safe spots. Maybe you haven't thought about this yet, but do you think that would impact their strategy at all? Maybe if they just think, I just need to post a run and then I don't want to stress myself out, which could mean that they don't perform at the same level they've been performing at because they don't need to.
Yeah, that's not something I've considered to this point, but yeah, I guess those runners, they could just be like, oh, I just have to come in and get just like a 140 to get myself a few points, and then you're basically clinched at that point. And that could open the door for, the runners who really have to try hard this weekend to maybe see if they can get a run that'll, maybe separate them further. Like if Cheese, Callie, and Punke all drop hypothetically, let's say a 140 flat, and then, the runners that have been kind of dropping in the low 140s all weekend, if they continue that, if one of them gets 139, suddenly they're, 4 or 5 spots ahead this weekend, which could make a big difference in the points. But I mean, you never know what their mindsets will be. I know that any one of them can just come in and do a no reset and probably get a 138 if they really tried to. But yeah, they very well may just kind of do a quick run and then chill for the weekend and just sort of know that they're pretty much clinched at that point.
I think it adds a chaos element to this 3rd round that's going to make it, from a viewer's perspective, extremely exciting. We don't have the stress that the runners have, thankfully for us. But I think I don't know. It's just, there's a lot of mystery to it that, we just can't really predict.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think, as you mentioned that, I'm starting to realize how chaotic things might just be at the end if they all just kind of have some decent time sprinkled in there, how much maybe a 20 or 30 second improvement could maybe move you up 4 spots, which could be the difference, right? Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. I think, like with my position, I think that I'll be putting less pressure on myself. Like if I was in 7th right now, I feel like I would be more worried about trying to defend my spot than I am being in 8th. Like if I'm in 8th, if I make it, cool. If I don't, cool, whatever. But if I was in 7th, I feel like personally, at least just my mindset, I'd be keeping a much closer eye on the standings to like see like, oh, do I have to get this time now to stay in or whatever.
In a way, being an 8th, it's like you have the pressure off. You have nothing. I mean, you literally have nothing to lose because if nothing changes, you haven't lost anything.
Exactly. Yeah. Just go for broke and, see what happens pretty much is all I'm going to go in. But who knows? My mindset could change between now and then or on the spot. Who knows?
So in a world where BlueBob qualifies, have you competed on a stage before? Like, have you done like a live event? I'm so sorry if I missed something in your past, but
no, that's fine. Yeah, I competed in the first pace.
Oh,
or
okay.
No, it was the second one, I guess technically. I forgot that one with Siglemic happened. But yeah, fall 2022. It was. Yeah, I was invited to compete at that one. And yeah, luckily there were no qualifiers there. It was, we were just invited to play. So this is a new thing for me, but being on stage, actually, yeah, this would be my second time. Which I think that experience could definitely help, because it's a very unique way to speedrun a game, and I think it was a bit of a shock to me my first time up, just how different it was.
What kinds of things were like? I mean, besides having a live audience like right behind you, what other like notable things were just like immediately different from just like doing your own thing, speedrunning on your own stream?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is just like when I'm speedrunning at home, like my surroundings are silent. There's that big screen beside you that's in your peripherals, that sometimes, I wouldn't say it messes with you, but it's definitely like, it's just like kind of an extra bit of sensory overload that's happening, and you're trying your best to like drown everything out, focus on the game. But I also I tried to interact with the audience a little bit, which maybe hurt my gameplay, but I think it was all about trying to maximize the experience of being there, on top of playing the game as well as I could. I think I was fortunate enough, again, that I went into that one expecting to get 6th or 7th. So I wasn't upset to get 7th, so I was just there to have a good time and just try to soak in the experience as much as I could.
All right, I'm an ideas guy. I hear you just came up with maybe not a problem, but you said, you have the screen in your peripheral, there's the audience. I don't know if it's on either side of you, so maybe this doesn't even work. But just hear me out. You know those like the little blinders they put on horses? Thoughts? Is that the answer? Is that going to unlock a podium finish?
I'll get one made if I qualify, and I'll wear it on stage.
Yes, I love that so much.
Actually, I won't even have to get one made. I'll just go to the horse track and see if they have any extras laying around.
It's right there.
Yeah, exactly.
The business opportunity is perfect.
Yeah, I'll let them put one sponsor on it for the racetrack, and then I think that would be a good deal.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Perfect. Look at us. We're just innovating the game, the live speedrunning game.
That would, yeah, I'm just picturing that right now. That would be quite a look to go up with.
You'd be a
all
trendsetter.
strategic.
Yeah. I would feel extra pressure at that point. If I'm gonna go all out like that, like I'm gonna have to play well. I have to make it worth it.
You think it adds pressure?
It could. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll find out when I do it.
I guess it's the kind of thing that, like, if it works, nobody's gonna question it. But if you do it and you come in 7th, then it's like, look at this guy. What is this?
He tried this hard and got 7th. Like, yeah, maybe that's a pressure I don't want. We'll make a game time decision there.
True. We'll run like a little cost benefit analysis on that one. See if it's really worth the risk.
Yeah.
Before we get too much deeper, you have something you're doing. It's encroaching on the Mario podcast game a little bit, but hey, that's okay. You've got the BOBCAST going on. What's the deal with the BOBCAST? Tell us what it is, how long you've been doing it. Fill us in.
Yeah, so it's been a crazy 2 weeks so far, but really, like, it just started as a meme. Like, I just thought it was like something I've never really seen is like somebody where runners just kind of like race once a week and just like, kind of chat and just kind of enjoy the game without like putting pressure to get a good run. Just kind of play through and just kind of see what happens. So like, I think kind of similar to this is just an informal, podcast where it also wasn't even really going to be called a podcast, but I memingly called it the BOBCAST, and was like, "Oh my god, you have to call it that! That's amazing!" I was like, "Okay, I guess I'll do that then." So that's kind of the direction it went, and yeah, basically, I'm trying to once a week, minus this last weekend because of the qualifiers. Just get a runner on. We'll do a race. Shoot the crap. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say anything more than that. And yeah, just kind of have some fun. I had Callie on the first week. It was a blast. Like, the race was close. We were just memeing around the whole time, but I try to make a point of asking some questions too, and learning a little bit. I had Frostbite week 2, and this next weekend we'll see who I have on. I have a couple options lined up, so starting with 120 star, but definitely kind of want to branch out. Like if a 16 star runner wants on, not that I'm any good at 16, we can maybe do like 316 races back to back or something, and see how that goes. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and we'll see how it goes.
I caught the episode with Callie. I haven't seen the one with Frostbite yet, but I thought it was phenomenal. Honestly, the most impressive thing was playing at what I consider to be a very high level and having a conversation while doing it. I feel like I've got to be like locked in to play really well over the course of an hour and a half, and you guys really did kind of shoot the crap, as you say. And yeah, I mean, it was good. You asked some good questions. It was cool to get some insight, and it was cool especially to hear two runners of your calibers talk about some things that I don't necessarily consider. I don't know, just the way you approach certain things, but even something like star order. You talked about star order for each of the stages, and how Callie says whenever he can, he always does 100 coins last because it gives him a better idea of his pace, where he is in the stage, because the 100 coin has the most variability. I don't know. It was super interesting point. It was really cool insights from both of you, and just kind of how you work, how you approach the game. So if you haven't seen the BOBCAST yet, you got to check it out. Very, very entertaining. I'm very excited to see who ends up coming on for the 3rd episode.
Yeah, thank you. It should be fun. And yeah, to your point, like I think from Callie, I really learned a lot. Like when you were talking about star orders, like he mentioned things I just never even once considered when I pick my star orders, and I think maybe I'll be able to learn something from these runners and maybe get a little bit better as a result. But I know you made a point too about playing at a high level and holding a conversation. You probably wouldn't have made that comment if you saw the 2nd episode. I did not play at such a high level. I was like forgetting stars. I went to basement with 25 stars.
Oh, no.
It just wasn't near as pretty. But yeah, the first one went surprisingly well when you consider all things.
It was a great race too. I mean, like you said, it was close.
Mm-hmm.
So is there anyone, and feel free not to answer this question because, is there anyone that you would consider like your white whale guest on the BOBCAST, somebody who you're like, I'm locking that one in if I can. Like, I just really want to have a conversation with this person.
That's tough to pick one. Like, I think there's so many of the top runners that are just, I think, would be really cool to have on. Like, I think one of the ones I'd have to pick would be like Simply or Liam. They're runners that, I've definitely, of course, met in person and talked to a bit at pace, but like, I don't think I've really sat down for an hour and a half with either of them and had a conversation. It would be really cool to learn about, their approaches to the game, and their approaches to like how they balance streaming and practicing and getting better at the game and attempts and all that kind of thing. I think Ouija or Sweegie would be great. I think I'd just be able to learn like an insane amount from them. But yeah, to pick one, I don't think I really could, to be honest. There are a lot of high caliber runners, and I'm sure I missed a bunch even there too.
Yeah, we definitely, Zias and I were actually just talking about kind of our white whales. We definitely don't have just one, and I think our lists they might even honestly just be one circle. They're identical. But those are all would be great guests. Yeah. So who knows? Maybe if one of us gets one of them on, we'll just plug the other person's podcast as well. It'll be a nice little back and forth deal here.
Get a bit of synergy going. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it'll just be the like the media trail. It's right. I mean, it's just 2 stops right now. It's just us 2, but
yeah, before you know it, there'll be 8 different podcasts, and they're just gonna work their way down the list and go on every one. And
exactly, you just got to do your media rounds. You mentioned competing in fall 2022 pace. You took a break. Did your break happen right after that?
it wasn't very long after that I stopped. Yeah, I think it was December. of 2022.
Okay.
Yeah, I went on a break. Partially just IRL things, bad internet, things just kind of took me away. I didn't want to stop at the time, but I was like, I could either half ours it or just kind of step away and come back, refreshed. So it worked out that way. And I came back kind of started this year, or wait, it's 2024. End of last year. I came back for a bit and just like updated my upstairs, like practiced a little bit, and then I kind of took a break again for a bit, and then came back like a few weeks before the first qualifier, and just was like, okay, if I'm gonna qualify or like try to, I gotta de-rust like as quick as possible. So I just did like a bunch of segment RTAs and like try to just go through everything and make sure that I remembered it, and then that was when the first qualifier happened, pretty much.
That's incredibly impressive. You were able to de-rust so quickly and you're already in the thick of it, competing for a spot. Props to you. And like you said, I mean, you PB'd in the first qualifiers, which is, it was a true PB, right? Or am I?
It was a 4-second PB. Yeah.
That's right. Yes.
My previous one didn't have carpetless. This one did. So it was technically like 45 seconds worse, but just had carpetless. But
right.
No, at the same time, like I was surprised to get that. I wasn't really expecting that on the first one, but it was nice to get. And then I think within a week or two of that, I got my current PB of the 139. So just hopefully got to keep that trajectory going in the same direction.
The comeback kid.
Yeah.
Some people are saying it.
I have heard that a couple of times. But yeah, we'll see. There's still
one obnoxious name in your chat repeatedly, just typing it in all caps. Who could that be?
So how do you want to receive your comeback player of the year trophy? Would you rather like get it in person? Do you want it like mailed to you? Like, how do you want to receive that?
Yeah, hand delivered definitely would be the way to go.
We'll have a ceremony and everything.
Yeah, that would be perfect. Maybe a surprise party. Have me just walk in and there it is. Anything less than that, I'm not even sure I'd want it. I'd just give it to someone else.
Are you attending PACE for sure? Like even if you aren't able to qualify?
If I don't qualify, it's a definite maybe. It's not confirmed if I don't qualify. Qualifying would definitely help a lot. I really want to, regardless. Like there's a lot of people going that I haven't met and would like to meet. So, I'm going to try my best regardless, but I can't make that guarantee if I don't qualify at the moment.
So it sounds like you'll be there because you'll qualify, so no issues there.
True.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Yeah. Problem solved. So I was perusing your run.gg account when I was looking for your most recent run, your tourney PB, because I wanted to just get an idea of kind of, do my analysis, my due diligence. And I noticed you have not just done 120 star. You've done other things as well, including breath holding. Recently, it was February.
That was my most recent category. Totally forgot about that. I didn't even consider the fact that would go on the run.gg.
Oh, it's on there. You've got a nice PB of 135.
Yeah,
shit.
I mean, it could be improved for sure. I definitely have to practice my inhale a little bit more. Get as much oxygen in as I can. But yeah, we'll see if I can get that going. Unfortunately, PB doesn't actually save there because the shorter the time, like what would save as a PB on live split would be the shortest time.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Shoot.
But I think
All
that
right.
is my PB because I've done one attempt.
We got to get in touch with the live split and the run.gg people and get this figured out. I have a question for you. Feel free to say no. Would you want to do a head-to-head race of breath holding right now on the spot?
Yeah, let's give it a go.
Oh man, okay.
Let me just
I got to get my lungs ready too.
expand my diaphragm as much as I can here.
I'll bust out a timer here.
All right.
Can you give us like a 3, 2, 1?
Should
Now, do we start the inhale?
and then time
We
it.
gotta plan our inhale here,
You're
Like-
right.
so that the hold starts on go pretty much.
Yeah, I think you can't inhale once go is said. You can exhale.
Yeah,
Mm.
because then you're done.
Yeah.
Well, I guess not technically, but
It's not done until you breathe in.
I
yeah,
think
true.
the inhale is where the run stops. We're
Okay.
obviously also not going to be able to tell when somebody's inhaling, so like honor system, put a hand up or something.
Yeah,
So maybe we do, if you count down 3, 2, 1, it's 3, 2, and then on 1, try to be like inhale and wrap up, and that way it'll be close enough.
okay, that works for me.
Just
All
just
right.
hold up a finger when you are officially holding.
Oh, good point. Yeah, so
I'm gonna
okay,
be, I'm gonna be plugging my nose, so that'll be my tell.
Oh, okay.
yeah, I'll put up a finger and then I'll put up another finger once I'm inhaling again and I'm out.
Okay.
Oh boy.
All right. Gentlemen, are we actually runners? Are we ready? All right. 3, 2, 1. And they are off. Should I be commentating this right now? I don't even like should. All right, we have BlueBob and Geo starting off their breath holding race here. And it looks like Geo stone cold at the moment, not phased by anything. BlueBob on the other side of things, obviously practiced here. This is Geo's first attempt. BlueBob a little bit more practiced with the category, though he does have one attempt under his belt. Technically the world record in breathing. Honestly, gonna give him a bit of an edge here. But yeah, it looks like Geo is distracting himself at the moment. Rookie of the year, calling it out for BlueBob. Oh, he's rookie of the year. Okay. So Geo, the new rookie, coming on to the scene, looking to take the crown from world record holder BlueBob. Gonna be interesting to see how the rest of this one goes. Some good times on the board currently. This is going on. This race. It's exciting. I can't believe. I can't believe this is still going. Geo looking incredibly unfazed. Bob. Oh, that was a PB though. That was a PB.
Oh,
That was a PB by 5 seconds.
that was 140.
That was a 140.
That
Oh
would give
man.
me 7th place in the LTA.
Yeah, let's go.
Holy, that last 10 seconds was really miserable.
Holy shit.
My lungs are like trying to expand and they cut. Oh man, that was really horrible.
Excellent job, gentlemen. Fantastic
Oh,
race. Congrats to
good to know.
Geo on
I
taking
was
the
worried it was
W.
like a minute in, and
Wow, that was
Oh no,
nicely done.
I mean, I don't know if this is an advantage. I did have a live split timer that I just hit, so I had an idea of where I was.
Oh,
too.
okay. I should have put on my
Um,
splits. You'd see it on the. You'd see my run on.
True.
On the GG.
It would have been live. Everyone would have tried to find your stream, been like, "Where is he? He's running." I also
I'll
I
update my
do feel like
splits.
I might have had a slight advantage. I used to swim back in the day.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so the lung capacity, it's not what it used to be, but it's not horrible.
Yeah, can't relate.
I will say when we started to do that, I think I got nervous because my heart was like pounding as soon as we started. And I was like, oh, this is gonna kill my oxygen. This is so bad.
I almost laughed when you put up the rookie of the year sign. I was trying my best not to.
Well, GG's. Great race. We'll have to do it again at some point.
Yeah, maybe we'll do like a best of 7.
Oh my
Oh, I like
god.
I like that.
Just
I gotta
pass out by
train. That
game
was-
5.
Oh. That was much more painful than running Mario, in a different way. A different way.
Yeah, this was physically painful, where Mario is mentally painful.
Yeah.
So, great moment to ask this question, I feel like. Now that we have a little bit of competition flowing through the podcast here. You already know this question was coming, but BlueBob, what is your Mount Rushmore of Mario 64 stars?
Okay. I was worried you were gonna throw a curveball because I knew this one was coming and say like runners or something instead of stars. So I've
We
actually
need
thought
to at
about
some
this.
point.
Yeah, just when a runner seems like prepared, that's when you hit them with the other one just to throw
Yeah.
them off. But I have thought about this. So I think that defining the mount. I
Oh.
just unplugged my headphones 1 sec. All right, we're back.
I think so.
You hear us?
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
perfect.
Let's go.
So I think defining like what goes on the Mount Rushmore, my thought was like the stars that have like impacted running and the game the most, um, or have like I think advanced the game the most as a whole. Um, I picked firstly Canonless. I think it's one of the first tricks people do. It's been iterated over the years so many times. There's so many different ways of doing it. I think that the setup really kind of like sparked a surge in speedrunning. I think there were a lot of top runners that were kind of, I think, maybe moving away from the game a bit, and then that setup, really increased the quality of life of running the game so much that it sparked, I think, kind of when Nero came back, it was all around that kind of time. So it's definitely on there. I think bomb clip, just because I think that's probably the trick that I would say the most amount of people have done.
Yeah.
Like if I had to guess, it's probably up there, or maybe the most done trick by someone, if not Canonless.
You think I was gonna say between Canonless and Bomb Clip, which one do you think is done more?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like bomb clip for most people is like the first thing that they learn when they're like, oh, either I want a speed run or they see a speed run.
Yeah.
That's what they pick. So I think it goes on just for that reason.
100% agreed. It's funny you say that because that was the first star. I still remember like the learning process of that star. It's the first thing I learned. I honestly don't think it should be the first one people learn either. It's not easy.
It's really hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people probably just try it and then are like, well, this is too hard, and then stop.
Yeah.
It's definitely not beginner friendly. And I think the only reason like it looks beginner friendly is because it's right at the start of the run. So anybody who runs the game has just done it so many times. Like it's not easy. And when you think about it, like, I don't know. I said that before I really actually continued that thought in my head, so I have nothing to say there.
No, but I totally agree with that. It's not easy, and it still ends up being the first one everyone does. And it's so funny how we all have like that similar experience.
Yeah. And similar to you, that was the first star I learned as well. And I remember spending like hours doing it where, if I were to learn something like that now, it'd probably take me 5 minutes. But, at the same time, I think that's one of the ones where you do it and you're like, oh, I'm a speedrunner now. This is cool.
Yeah.
My first glitch. So I think it goes on. Carpetless has to be on. It went from being a meme to being something that actually like changed the game like significantly. It's probably the biggest find in the last decade, at least I would say. The setup. It was a word that not even a year ago I had banned in my chat, and now it's it's one of the coolest tricks. I think it deserves to go on at this point. It's just that significant.
So have you unbanned it?
I have, yeah. I thought about keeping it banned just for the meme, but too many people were typing it, asking legitimate questions, and then just not getting their messages posted. So I was like, all right,
That's fair.
We'll unban it. Number 4, I would say, I thought about this one like, I think just in terms of like one of the hardest tricks that similar to bomb clip, I think a lot of people can do despite being really hard and kind of cool. I'd say pillarless. but there might be some better choices for number 4. That was one that, it's kind of there's a lot of cool ones that could have gone on there. But that's of course just looking at tricks. If I had to pick a movement-based star, I would say like SSL Reds is up there, because that's another star that has been iterated so many times. Like when I first started running this game, if you got a sub 1 minute SSL Reds, that was like a really good time. And then another route came out where it's like you get a 57 and that's good. And then another one came out where it's like you get a 53 and that's good. And now people are getting 45s. And there's just so many completely different routes that have been done. Like the first route, completely different coin order, different movement. I think it's just kind of one of those stars that has just changed so many times throughout the, I guess, history of the game, that I think it's always been one of the harder, one of the more challenging, cooler stars in the run.
I love it. So is your final one plus, or is it SSL Rads?
Yeah, I didn't really give an answer there, did I?
You tried to sneak 5 in there.
Yeah, you know what? I think I just talked myself into SSL Reds. We'll throw that one in there.
I mean, you can't go wrong with either one. To be clear, I mean, it's not a criticism. Both are great choices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think just for some variety, a movement-based star.
Yeah. No, that's a great Mount Rushmore. I love it. I agree with all the picks.
100%.
Some of the
They're
most
all
aggravating stars in the game, but also some of the coolest.
100% agree with that. And they're all just like they have such huge places in speedrunning history, or like a speedrunner's journey with the game.
Yeah, for sure. I think, like, especially the first 3, they're all tricks that, like, I still remember my first time doing them. Like my first Canimus, with and without the setup, I remember. I still remember the night the setup came out for Sockfolder, and like, we all hopped in a tiny chat and we're like just doing it over and over again. I still remember learning bomb clip. I still remember my first pillarless and just like popping off by myself and like, yeah, just I don't know. Cool start.
They're just like such pivotal memories. I mean, for me, it's the same for me, where I remember like each of the first times I hit each of those, and it's like, am I a speedrunner? Like, am I sick at the game? Like, that's dope. Like, that's so cool. And it's just it's that rush that you get, and it's like what pulls you in deeper into speedrunning and helps you kind of fall in love with the game, I feel like.
Yeah. And then eventually gets to a point where you're just mad if you don't get them.
We become entitled.
Yeah, exactly.
It really is such an interesting progression as speedrunners. Like when you're first starting out, like you look at these things and you're like, oh my god, like how do they do this? Like how is this even possible? And then so quickly it turns into, like Geo said, how can I miss this? Like what am I doing wrong? Like can I not play the game anymore? Like it's so interesting how quickly that happens too.
Yeah, I think this weekend was kind of an example of that. As I mentioned, like I couldn't do triple jump owlless anymore for some reason and just kept resetting to it. I still remember the first time I got it and I was freaking out. I was like, oh my god, I just got it. Now I fail it and I'm just like raging. Like it's just, yeah, it's crazy how as you get better, your standards just go through the roof as well. But there's still always like a fun and positive spin to put on it.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like I don't know, I struggle with this. Thinking of, you get so used to whatever your goal is, you're always trying to improve. And the nature of a PB is it's literally the best you've ever played the game. So it's a very high standard as a speedrunner for you to have something you're happy with. Some people I think are maybe a little better about saying it's not necessarily, obviously you want a PB, but it's about getting a good time, close to your PB. That's still a good run. That's something to be happy with, or a deep run or whatever it is. But it's so interesting. I feel like it's so easy to forget the progress you've made because you're so focused on that goal, and you get to a point where you're like, well, I expect to hit, plus every time. I expect to hit whatever it is. And it helps to kind of step back every now and then and remember that, like, hey, there was a time where this was, you labbed this with save states for hours and you still couldn't get it. And then you finally got it once, and then it got to a point where maybe you were hitting it 50% of the time. And I feel like it can be really healthy to kind of step back, remind yourself of that progress and that journey, to see how far you've come, as opposed to focusing on, what's directly in front of you, the next PB or whatever, and see like this long trail of successes behind you. And that's the reason that you're still running the game. It's partially to keep getting to the next PB, but it's also because of all these successes behind you and how great those felt. And I don't know. That's something that recently I've been trying to remind myself more of, because the PBs have not been happening, so I need something else to keep motivating me.
Yeah, no, that seems like a good practice, and I think similar to you, that's one that I need to pick up on a little bit more. It's easy to compare yourself to either when you were at your best or just very recent things that you've done, but yeah, like similar to what you said, like I was failing powerless a few times this weekend, and you get mad, but like it wasn't. I mean, it was a long time ago for me. I'm a boomer in the speedrunning community, but I still do remember the times where I was just really excited to get it, even once in a run or first try or even second try, and I'm like, oh, that's still really good. And I think just kind of looking back and seeing, how far you have come since you started is always a good practice.
Conversely, I feel like sometimes now when I put a new trick in, it's like, if I do get it first try and then I PB, it's like, oh, I'm like locked into that now forever. Like I have to always hit that first try. I just raised the stakes a lot.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely in the same boat. I try my best to be objective with like my resets and like the tricks that I have to do. Like I know Callie went into discussion about this, like when he implements strats and stuff, and like I feel like I'm on the conservative side of that. Like I try to let my movement save most of the time, but I think I'm nearing the point where I have to start focusing more on tricks. And like if I get a PV with Salt Kless, I'm gonna be like, oh, now I have to start doing Salt Kless, or like chip clip I learned, or front sub, and
Yep.
I'm at the point where it's like my PB has none of those, but I'm starting to do them, and as soon as I PB with it, it's gonna be like, oh,
Can't go back.
it's just gonna be dreadful now. Yeah,
It's just another hurdle you have to get over to not reset.
exactly.
Yeah.
So you've been.
Well,
Oh,
go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I guess one last question. You've been around speedrunning for a minute. Besides your new foray into breathing, is there any other game that like has kind of like caught your eye a little bit? You've watched runs and you're like, oh man, I could see myself getting into that.
So I have ran some other games throughout the years. Actually, funnily enough, I know you were saying you're doing a Paper Mario playthrough. I speedran Paper Mario for a while.
Oh, let's go.
The glitchless category. And I always, like, that's a game that I really only took seriously for, like, a few weeks. But I did races every weekend for, like, a couple of years.
Oh, wow.
And part of me always sometimes just wants to go back to that game and just, like, really update my time and try to see what I can do in, like, an RPG-style speedrun. I always enjoy watching Pokemon speedruns. But as far as like platforming games, like I don't know. I feel like I don't think I've really ever played another platformer that like really makes me want to speedrun it. I don't know. Maybe one will come out sometime, but I really can't name any. But a lot of RPGs I really do enjoy watching the speedruns of.
What do you think the biggest differences are between like a Paper Mario speedrun and an SM64 speedrun?
Well, Paper Mario, there's a lot more. Well, I mean, you can have notes, but like memorization, like it's almost a 4-hour speedrun for the glitchless category. So it's just a lot of little things to know there. Menuing, movement is important in that game, but like it's, I don't think it has quite the complexity that SM64 movement has. So I find them a little bit more relaxed, which like I think SM64 is such a like, I don't know what kind of adjective to use here, like high octane. I don't think that's right, but like it gets the point.
I think it's right. It sounds metal as hell.
Yeah, exactly. I just don't know if I have another one like that in me. Like I said, I'm such a boomer in the community already that I just I think something relaxing like an RPG. And Paper Mario is so great because you don't even have to mash text in that game. Like You advance text as fast as possible just by holding B,
Mm.
which is just quality of life is just amazing in that game.
Quality of life.
Yeah, I have a clamp that I just put on my controller for long cutscenes. You can get up and leave for like 5 minutes. Like,
Yo.
That's
it's
so
just-
funny.
yeah, it's tool assisted, but it is
Literally
nice.
tool assisted.
Yeah. um,
What a different life that is.
yeah, but that game's fun. I ran Majora's Mask for a little bit as well.
Ooh.
That's a fun speed run.
Which category did you do?
I did what at the time was any percent.
Okay.
They found so many glitches now. It's called like any percent, no bunch of letters.
And MG no major glitches, I think, is like the main any percent because they have there is ace, I think.
Yeah, they do have ace now. So yeah, I think that is it. At the time, it was just any percent, but
Yeah.
I mean that's another game that I don't think I really ever even. I probably maybe got to the intermediate level, but never got into the advanced level in that game. Where Paper Mario, I was top 5 at one point.
Oh
Oh
wow.
damn.
But I mean, there was maybe 30 runners, right? So it wasn't quite like being top 5 in SM64 or something.
That's still impressive.
Top 5's top
Yeah.
5.
Hey, yeah, there we go.
It's a fact. I might need to reach out to you. If I ever run another game, I think it would be Majora's Mask. So I'm very interested on like a nerdy, nitty-gritty detail level. That's probably not for this call, but I would love to pick your brain. I also don't know. I feel like right now my hand, like I have barely enough time, as much time as I'd want to put into. I mean, ideally I'd have more time for Mario. So like I feel like picking up another game is not the answer at the time.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, that game is really, really cool, really fun, but also really hard. Like compared to Super Mario 64, like that game, you have to put a ton of time in just to finish a run.
That's
Like,
crazy.
there's so many glitches, like hard glitches, you have to be able to do, or else like they save like 2 hours. Where in SM64, it's like, oh, you just use the owl, you just like all these things that save like a few seconds, but like you can learn and do your first run in SM64 in like couple hours, like for 16, really.
Right.
I think I learned and did my first run in the span of like 3 hours.
Yeah.
Where that game took me weeks before I could even consider trying my first run.
That's crazy to think about. I think that's probably one of the reasons SM64 is such a great speed game, though, is because the barrier to entry. I mean, if you want to become truly a top level player, there's you can grind, you can put in the time. There's so much to learn. But then if you want to just pick up the game and play it, I mean, you don't have to have played a game before. I mean, like you said, it's within a few hours you can. It won't be the fastest, and I mean, it's not going to be the cleanest, but you can do a 16-star run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly it. Which I think that's part of why this game's so popular. Like, of course, there's the movement and everything. I mean, I'm biased as heck, but it's a great speed game. But yeah, the barrier to entry is just so perfect for speedrunning, in my opinion.
Couldn't agree more. Well, Bob, we want to be cognizant of your time. Zeus, do you have any other questions that are must hits? I'm looking at our notes too. I think I asked everything I wanted to ask.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot here. Guess just one anecdotal question for Bob here. Big fan of Trailer Park Boys, or is that just the alert?
No, I'm a big fan.
Let's go.
It's just part of being Canadian. Like that's our culture. Yeah, no, I've been watching that show since high school.
Oh my goodness.
Just a hilarious show. Yeah, long before it ever hit Netflix and kind of gained popularity. It's always been popular in like Canada only. And yeah, I don't know, there's just something about it. Like that show is so far from like my personality and like anything else that I enjoy, but there's just something about it. I don't know. It's one of my favorite shows of all time.
It just seems so real. I don't know. Like everything's just so good. Like
yeah, it's like it was like pretty much the first ever like mockumentary style show. Like The Office, I know does that, and like Parks and Recreation. Like they were doing that, and I don't know. They just it took them a couple seasons to really hit their stride, but once they did, it was just some of the best TV ever, in my opinion.
Golden. Beautiful show. anyone needs
Yeah.
something new to watch, Trailer Park Boys.
Yeah.
Easy
it's,
recommend.
Yeah. Definitely made for a pretty good alert too.
I love the alert. I haven't even seen the show, and I just love the alert.
Oh, good old Philadelphia Collins. I actually, a bit of a fun fact. I coached, I think it was Cheese's run at SGDQ 2017, and I snuck. Not many people are gonna get this reference, but maybe you will see us. He was in Rainbow Ride, and he was like, I think he failed Lackey bounce a couple times, and like we were going through all the backups, and I was like, if he fails it once more, like worst case Ontario, he can go and do like swinging in the breeze. And I snuck that into the commentary, and I was so thrilled when I saw a comment on the video being like, somebody picked it up and like time stamped it and was like, oh.
It's always a beautiful thing when you find other fans of the show out in the wild, whether it be on the
Yeah.
internet or in public, anywhere. Just those small Rickyisms. Got to slip them in there.
Exactly.
It's so good.
Yeah, there's sometimes I'll catch myself saying something and like I'll forget the actual saying because I only know the Rickyism.
Oh, it's so good. Geo, you gotta watch it, man. You gotta watch it.
I gotta add to the list. It's on Netflix, you said?
Yeah, I think it still is.
I
I
think
can
so.
find it somewhere online, I'm sure.
Yeah. Netflix bought it and made some newer seasons and they were kind of middle.
No.
Classic. That sounds like
But
familiar.
yeah, but the original ones, oh, mwah, just
Beautiful.
so good. Yeah.
How many original ones were there? If I watch it, I want to know where to cut off.
8?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think there's
Yeah.
a big gap between them. Like you'll know when it's one of the newer ones.
okay.
It goes like super high def, like full screen, like all in the newer ones. They like
Yeah.
up the production value. So
And it's like more scripted. You can tell.
Yeah.
Like the first ones were like half improvised,
I love that.
and I think that was part of the magic of it too.
And when you get a good show and the actors like vibe with each other and can actually improv and kind of like, I don't know, like the give and take there, I feel like it always makes it better. You can
Yeah.
read the chemistry as a viewer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, all right, Blue Bob, thank you so much for your time. This has been awesome. We've really enjoyed having you on. We're rooting for you. We want to see you qualify. We want to see you kick butt in these March qualifiers. We're going to be cheering loud. I might be cheering a little louder. I have you in my predictions as the 7th qualifier. So if you have to pick a favorite, I'm just saying one of us had you in the final 7. Putting the on blast.
Hey, listen.
That's okay,
but we want you to do really well. We'd love to see you there. And we want to get a PB. How about that?
yeah, we'll see what happens. No, thanks a lot for having me on. This was a lot of fun, especially to Geo for having me in the predictions. No, I'm just
There it
kidding.
There it is.
No, thanks a lot. Yeah, we'll see what happens this next time, and I think regardless of if I make it or not, I'll be happy because there isn't a single runner in contention that I would be sad to lose to. They're all great runners, so we'll see what happens.
A lot of good talent up there. But hey, you're the only comeback player of the year, so
It's true.
Well, there's 10 months to go, but so far, yeah, we'll see what happens.
Leading candidate.
leading candidate. Yeah, I don't think there's anyone else. No one has even been mentioned in that conversation, as far as I know, except for you.
Oh, we'll see if it stays that way. Maybe Siglemic will come back in like
Yeah.
September or something. Then I'm
It'd
just
be tough to compete with Sigleva.
yeah. I'd be a happy second place at that point.
Well, all right, Bob. Thanks so much. We appreciate it. It's been great having you on.
Thanks, Bob.
No problem. My pleasure.
Bye.